Burkina Faso's Bongo and Wagner gold mines now belong to the government. Until Tuesday, the 27th of August 2024, the Bongo and Wagner gold mines were owned by an African mining company. However, Ouagadougou has agreed a deal to nationalize the mines for around $80 million. And Devil Mining, which agreed to sell Bongo and Wagner to Lilium last year for more than $300 million, had accused the Traore of missing payment. Meanwhile, Lilium argued that London-listed Endeavour had misrepresented and hidden financial information about the mines. However, as part of Tuesday's agreement, the companies are to abandon their legal cases against each other.
What if I told you that for decades, Africa's gold was never truly Africa's? What if behind every glimmering necklace, every central bank vault in the West, and every golden Olympic medal lay the hidden sweat of African miners? And the silence of betrayal? Welcome to Burkina Faso, where the unthinkable has finally happened. The gold isn't being stolen anymore. For years, millions of ounces of gold flowed from Burkina Faso's soil into the pockets of foreign companies, offshore accounts, and shadowy trade deals, leaving behind gaping pits, toxic waste, and poverty-stricken communities that barely scraped a living. While the country produced over 50 tons of gold annually, only a fraction ever entered the national treasury. Where did the rest go? The answer was as clear as it was uncomfortable. Out of Africa, often under the cover of legal contracts signed with ink dipped in exploitation. But then came Captain Ibrahim Traore, not a career politician, not a puppet, but a revolutionary soldier who saw through the deception and decided it was time to end the plunder. Let's rewind to understand why this shift is shaking not just Burkina Faso, but the entire economic order in West Africa, the dirty gold pipeline. Before Traore's arrival, multinational mining companies, many registered in Canada, the UK, or Australia, held long-term permits to mine Burkina Faso's gold. These agreements were often signed decades ago by previous governments, desperate for investment and blind to the fine print. Some contracts promised up to 90% of profits to foreign firms, with only royalties of 3 to 5% going to the Burkinabe state. Worse still, many of these companies operated through tax havens, repatriating earnings while declaring minimal local profit. The result? Villages displaced, rivers poisoned with cyanide and mercury, youth working in deadly conditions for a few francs a day, a nation sitting on a gold mine while begging for foreign aid. Traore saw this system for what it was: economic colonialism wrapped in legal jargon. But exposing the rot was only step one. He needed a plan, the masterstroke, nationalizing the gold chain. In early 2025, Traore announced something that sent shockwaves through ECOWAS and foreign boardrooms. Burkina Faso would begin reclaiming control of its gold production, from extraction to export. The policy wasn't just a PR stunt, it came with teeth: immediate audits of all foreign mining licenses, suspension of companies found underreporting gold yields, introduction of a new law mandating that no gold leaves Burkina Faso without state verification and value assessment, plans to establish state-owned gold refining centers within the country. This was more than bold, it was dangerous. Gold is not just a metal, it's a geopolitical weapon, and those who control it don't give it up without a fight. Resistance and retaliation. Within weeks of the announcement, the pressure began. Some Western governments called Traore's move risky for foreign investment. Others warned of diplomatic consequences. International media framed him as a militant leader undermining stability. Behind closed doors, ECOWAS held emergency discussions, worried that other Sahel nations might follow suit. And they had good reason to worry. Because the people of Burkina Faso didn't just support Traore's decision, they celebrated it. Gold that once left their villages without trace was now being melted, measured, and monetized under Burkinabe oversight. In one viral video, a local miner in the town of Hound said, "For the first time, I saw a bag of gold leave our site with government tags. Not hidden, not rushed, just honest." This wasn't just about economics anymore. This was about dignity, justice, freedom, the end of the gold grab. But is it really over? That's the question we'll explore in part 2. Because behind this bold move lies a deeper transformation. Traore isn't just stopping the theft. He's changing who benefits from the gold, and how that wealth is shaping a new Burkina Faso. We'll uncover how new alliances, Hidden trade routes and secret refining deals are turning this gold policy into a regional power play, and why some are now calling Traore the man who rewrote Africa's golden future. If this story moved you, share your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Africa is finally reclaiming its wealth? Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video so the world can witness what happens when a nation refuses to be a pawn in someone else's game. What does it look like when a young African leader says enough and actually backs it with action? In Burkina Faso, it's not just gold that's being reclaimed, it's destiny. After part 1, we saw how Traore shook the table with a masterstroke by disrupting the gold theft syndicate that had bled Burkina Faso for decades. But now, let's pull back the curtain on what came next. How this young revolutionary didn't just protest the system, he rebuilt it from the ground up. Because stopping the theft is only one side of the coin. The real question is, where does the gold go now? Rewriting the supply chain. From dust to dinar, Captain Ibrahim. Traore knew that cutting off exploitation meant nothing if the alternative wasn't in place. So while foreign firms scrambled, the state quietly began building what many now call Africa's first fully patriotic gold pipeline. Let's walk through it step by step. 1. Community-centered mining cooperatives. Instead of leaving gold mining in the hands of multinationals, Traore's administration began issuing new local mining permits. Not to big corporations, but to community cooperatives and youth employment programs. These cooperatives were trained, equipped, and monitored directly by the Ministry of Mines and the National Gold Oversight Council. They are small-scale, decentralized, but regulated. Each cooperative signs a contract to deliver a percentage of its gold directly to the state refinery at fixed prices, ensuring both fairness and traceability. As a result, thousands of young Burkinabes who once labored in dangerous illegal pits are now working under safer, state-protected frameworks, with direct revenue returning to their villages. Here's where things get truly revolutionary. Instead of exporting raw gold, like the old days, Traore's administration completed the country's first state-owned gold refinery in early 2025, with the capacity to process 20 tons per year. No more shipping raw gold to Dubai, Switzerland, or South Africa for processing. No more undervaluing African gold in global markets. No more watching middlemen triple their profits abroad. With in-house refining, Burkina Faso can now produce certified gold bars with its own national hallmark. That's not just economics, it's power. According to a confidential report leaked in March 2025, the gold bars from Ouagadougou's new facility were already being sold directly to state-backed buyers in Turkey, the UAE, and select African nations, cutting out former partners in Europe altogether. Traore didn't just take back the mine, he took back the market, the secret trade deals that changed everything. What came next stunned analysts across the world. Burkina Faso began signing quiet, strategic trade deals, not with the old colonial powers, but with new global players hungry for raw materials and willing to play fair. Let's break it down. Turkey agreed to purchase refined Burkinabe gold at international spot prices, bypassing Western middlemen while offering technology and machinery in return. Russia offered military hardware, cybersecurity support, and infrastructure investments in exchange for a multi-year gold for tech agreement. UAE opened discrete financial channels allowing Burkina Faso to trade gold for medical supplies, agricultural tools, and renewable energy systems. And perhaps most controversial of all, Traore proposed a Sahel Gold Exchange, a regional platform that would allow Mali, Niger, Guinea, and others to pool refined gold and negotiate as a bloc, setting African-driven prices and controlling local value chains. This idea terrified old powers. Why? Because if Africa controls its gold, it starts to control its currency, credit, and capital. And that's a world order reshuffle. ECOWAS. Crumbling or cornered? Now here's where the geopolitical fault lines began to tremble. Traore's economic independence sparked anger, not just abroad, but inside ECOWAS. Several member states accused Burkina Faso of economic nationalism, warning that such unilateral policies could destabilize the region's investment climate. But the irony? Burkina Faso was already destabilized by the very investments ECOWAS defended. Corrupt leaders had once signed away mineral rights to stay in the good books of global lenders, and in return they got coups, sanctions, and despair. Traore, meanwhile, refused the loans and took the mines, and instead of begging ECOWAS, he began forging the alliance of Sahel states, an alternative economic bloc prioritizing sovereignty, trade fairness, and security cooperation. In one fiery address in Bobo Dioulasso, he declared, "Let ECOWAS worry about investors, we will worry about our people." And the people heard him. In markets, mosques, and mining towns across the country, gold was no longer seen as a curse or a stolen dream. It was a source of pride, a symbol of a future finally in their hands, from gold dust to golden vision. This story is more than a financial shakeup. It's a paradigm shift. For the first time in generations, Burkina Faso is redefining what it means to be rich, not in borrowed currency or foreign accolades, but in resources controlled by its own people. The gold is no longer buried treasure for someone else's empire. It is the currency of liberation. And while this bold revolution has made Traore powerful allies, it's also earned him powerful enemies. In Part 3, we'll look at the blowback, the sabotage attempts, foreign media smear campaigns, secret diplomatic warnings, and how Traore is preparing for a long economic war to keep this dream alive. Are you inspired or alarmed by Traore's gold revolution? What would it mean if every African nation followed this model? When a poor country starts standing tall, the first response isn't applause, it's retaliation. Burkina Faso's audacious plan to reclaim its gold, its wealth, its voice, has done more than rattle the mining industry. It sent tremors through boardrooms, central banks, and foreign policy circles. And now the gloves are off. Traore's gold reforms have drawn praise from Pan-African groups, youth movements, and mining communities. But behind the scenes, the knives are out. Economic warfare, the quiet siege. When you can't beat a country militarily, you bleed it financially. Since the reforms, economic roadblocks have quietly appeared. Foreign banks have delayed or blocked transfers from Burkina Faso, citing compliance issues. Insurance companies withdrew coverage from local mining operations. Credit rating agencies, all based abroad, downgraded Burkina Faso, despite improved domestic indicators. The reason is clear: punishment for challenging the system. And this strategy isn't new. It's the same playbook used when African nations try to reclaim control. Only this time, Burkina Faso didn't flinch. Media attacks, controlling the narrative. When financial weapons don't work, they target perception. In 2025, major news outlets changed their tone. Headlines shifted. Traore threatens regional stability. Gold nationalization could backfire. Investors flee Burkina Faso. One article accused Traore of weaponizing nationalism. Another falsely claimed gold smuggling had tripled, citing unnamed sources. Then came the documentaries, polished, dramatic, and clearly well-funded. They painted a country in chaos, a rogue military leader risking famine and collapse. But on the ground, the truth told a different story. Markets were thriving. Mining towns were rebuilding. Youth employment was improving.
In response, Traore asked, "When we were starving, they called us developing. Now that we are feeding ourselves, they call us dangerous. What changed?"
Sabotage and subversion. This isn't just a war of words, it's becoming physical. Reports have surfaced of a suspicious explosion at a gold processing site, gold convoys attacked in zones previously considered secure, foreign agents posing as journalists and aid workers near mining zones. Burkinabe intelligence believes covert destabilization efforts are underway, not through invasions but infiltration. Traore responded swiftly, launched a resource security force to guard mining sites, expelled foreign contractors with unverifiable credentials, tightened surveillance over gold transport routes. This isn't paranoia, it's preparation. A ripple through Africa. What Burkina Faso started is inspiring the continent. In Mali, calls for gold nationalization grow louder. In Guinea, contract renegotiations are already underway. In South Africa, debates have reignited over foreign ownership of mines. And now, a bold idea is being whispered in regional meetings. A Sahel Gold Consortium, a block of nations setting their own prices and controlling the trade pipeline. If this happens, it would be the first time Africa collectively controls a global commodity at the value chain level.
A European advisor, speaking off the record, admitted, "If this spreads, we're in trouble."
And maybe they are. Because Traore hasn't just disrupted mining, he's disrupted dependence, the battle for belief. But no revolution survives without belief. If Burkina Faso's people lose hope, if unity breaks, then even gold can't save them. That's why Traore is fighting not just for control, but for hearts and minds. And so far, he's winning. Is Burkina Faso being punished for doing what's right? Is this what sovereignty costs in today's world? Share your thoughts below, like this video, and subscribe for part 4. the final chapter of this gold revolution. How do you turn a moment into a movement? How do you make sure that what you build with courage doesn't crumble under pressure the moment you're gone? Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Revolutions are fragile. And what Captain Ibrahim Traore has sparked in Burkina Faso is not just a political or economic revolt, it's a spiritual and generational awakening. But the question we must now ask is, can this gold revolution survive long enough to reshape Africa's future? In this final part, we explore what comes next, the long-term vision, the obstacles still lurking, and the continental ripple effect that may redefine how Africa trades, governs, and values its own worth. Institutionalizing the revolution. Every revolution needs a structure, or it dies with the leader. Traore understands this. That's why, over the last 6 months, he's quietly begun building institutions that will outlive him, codifying his reforms into systems that are harder to reverse, even under future governments. 1. The National Gold Sovereignty Act. In July 2025, Burkina Faso's transitional legislature passed the Gold Sovereignty Act, enshrining into law the state's right to audit all gold exports, control at least 51% ownership of all new mining operations, refine and certify a minimum of 70% of gold within national borders before export. This law cannot be repealed by executive order. It requires a national referendum to overturn, placing the power back into the hands of the people. 2. The Gold Security and Transparency Agency, GOSTA, launched in August 2025. GOSTA is an independent civilian-led body responsible for publishing monthly reports on gold production and revenue, investigating illicit trade routes and underreporting, creating digital traceability systems for every gram of refined gold. Already, citizens can track where gold from their region has gone, who bought it, for how much, and what portion went to local development projects. This is not just transparency, it's ownership. 3. The Gold to Development Fund, GDF. On the agenda? Creating a Sahelian gold consortium to negotiate as a bloc, standardize refining, and coordinate pricing, similar to how OPEC handles oil. If this consortium materializes, it would mark the first time in modern history that African countries collectively control the value chain of one of the world's most critical commodities. And it's not stopping with gold. Traore has proposed similar models for cotton and shea butter. Burkina Faso is a top producer. Lithium and cobalt with regional partners. Uranium and manganese, which are currently exported raw by neighbors under exploitative terms. In essence, he is laying the foundation for a new kind of Africa-led economy, not driven by extraction but by transformation, and it's inspiring a generation. Across university campuses in Senegal, street corners in Ghana, and town halls in Congo, young Africans are no longer just asking for jobs. They're demanding resource ownership, economic literacy, and transparent governance. The gold is no longer just a mineral, it's a mirror. Can the West adapt or will it fight? With this shift comes a final geopolitical dilemma. How will the West respond when they are no longer in control? There are signs of both resistance and recalibration. Some Western nations, seeing the writing on the wall, have begun reaching out with new trade proposals, offering fairer deals in exchange for restored cooperation. Others have doubled down on their narrative war, painting Sahel leaders as isolationists, even extremists. But the old tactics are losing potency, because what Traore has revealed is simple. Africa doesn't hate the West, it hates being used. In one recent speech to a Pan-African Youth Summit, Traore said, "We are not closing our doors, we are simply locking them so no one enters without respect." This isn't anti-Westernism, it's pro-dignity. The world must now decide. Will it cling to outdated systems of control, or embrace a fairer era of respectful trade, mutual development, and sovereign wealth? A caution and a hope. But let's be honest, Burkina Faso's journey is far from over. Challenges still loom. Rising security threats from armed groups, some believed to be proxies for disrupted interests. A fragile transition to democratic elections by 2026, with hopes that any incoming leadership upholds the gold sovereignty agenda. Risk of internal corruption, because even noble systems can be hijacked without vigilance. Traore's dream, no matter how bold, will only endure if the people own it, not just in policy, but in practice. Yet hope runs deep. Gold once symbolized Africa's chains. Now it glimmers with the promise of economic rebirth, pride, and power. Burkina Faso has proven something few thought possible. That a nation, no matter how small or humble, can stand up, take back its wealth, and tell the world, we are no longer for sale. So we leave you with this. Has Burkina Faso lit a match that could ignite a continental fire? Or will global forces smother it before it spreads? Drop your thoughts in the comments, subscribe to this channel, like the video, and share it with everyone who still believes in the African dream. This isn't just a story about gold, it's a story about who owns the future.